Welcome back, everyone, for another week of Weed Been There. Matt, you're muted. There you go. I'm Rick from Uncle Rick's Genetics.
Brian from Great Green Door.
And I'm Matt from Nobody Knows.
Rod from Utopic is, I don't know where he's at, but we've tagged him. We called him. Hopefully he jumps in the middle of this. Not really sure. But I'm going to tag some people right now. Matt, you have your introductory dab, or?
I'm downstairs, actually. So I am going to have to actually pass. I can hit the dab pen, maybe. I got one of those right here.
Okay. Not the same.
No, it's definitely not the same.
It's all good.
I think this is
I actually can light the torch up. As long as I know where my piece is. There it is.
A bit better. Yeah, fire up the old butane.
The torch head around the world.
Good day. Happy Saturday, podcast day, July the 20th. Hope everybody's enjoying their nice weather, their summer.
Yeah,
The stars are out in the CGI.
I'm going to tag some more people. Looking to,
Today was gorgeous for me where I am.
What happened?
I said today the weather was gorgeous for me where I was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was really
like 80 degrees, like no humidity, finally.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, chilled out quite a bit.
How's everybody's plants in the chat? Alan? Oh, Dead Eagles in here? Or no?
No, that's people I
He's
tagged.
just tagging, yeah.
Nobody's actually here. Believe it or not. It's a beautiful Saturday evening, and I would expect some people to be out doing their thing and enjoying the summer.
Yeah.
You know, we're the ones stuck here working.
Sacrifices needed to be made.
Cost of doing business.
Oh, dude, he stole it.
Oh man, he did. Do you mind if I kick us off here?
Go ahead, sir.
I mean, sure, Eric. I've never seen you lead off, but...
Well,
usually
hashtag put it in the ground. Thank you, Jazz. How you doing?
Usually
Good
the one
evening.
that brings it all together, that glues it all together at the end, you know.
It's all right, man. I'll still do a wrap-up. I just think,
without
Rod here,
card right now.
We're going to let you go last, Matt, because we gotta keep this one tight today. We don't have a lot of time to lollygag, but
definitely do have to keep it tight.
We got some plans. The cast has some plans, so so I wanted to kick it off with basic inputs, and this is just like kind of a sidebar, not really. I talk to a lot of people about growing, and one of the biggest things that I'm seeing their problem is not understanding the importance of VPD. Please print a chart out. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please look up a chart. A lot of people are not keeping that VPD even close in their entire vegetative growth, and then they only aim for it in flower because they're afraid of mold. And they don't even know they're aiming for it. They just go for, like 80, 60, and they're good enough, But, my sidebar here is, oh, hello there. What's up, Max Plant? But yeah, so definitely make sure you're maintaining VPD. And secondly, make sure that you're watering the correct amount. That kind of goes along with VPD. If you have bad VPD and your watering are off, your plant's going to have a nightmare to live in that environment. But if you're, paying attention to how much you're watering and you have good VPD, this plant's going to be able to grow the way it's supposed to grow when it's in veg. Far too little people are at like 70 to 80% humidity, and they need to be. So, I haven't seen any mold at the correct VPD, but I have when people have no clue what they're doing in flower and they just let it go. Max Blend, 100%. 100%. That was my next point. pH is like the second biggest thing, because if you have a crap environment, your plant's not going to uptake good pH water well or not. It's just going to give you one less problem. pH water for your medium is important. So if you're running hydro, make sure that you have a pH uptake nutrient chart for hydro. If you're in cocoa, follow the pH nutrient uptake chart for cocoa. This is another thing that you can easily, Alan Cook, hashtag put in the ground. This is something easily you can print out and just have it on the ready. What's up, Jeremy? How you doing, sir? Good evening.
Or memorize it. It's not hard to memorize.
No, it's not. Actually, we have a new subscriber to celebrate right here.
Imagine that.
Celebrate party time. We should have kazoos, dude.
Jeremy,
Kaczynski,
welcome.
Welcome to the Growmunity, sir.
We should have
Glad to have
kazoos. Eric, how about we work on that? Let's get some kazoos, and then when we have new subs, we can do the,
Oh, we'll just like bring them in. All right.
Yeah,
Can I get the one that you spin around and it's just like click 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 click, the clicker thing?
I should have a gong behind me.
Bong.
We can all have different things, dude. That'll be.
Here we go. We'll all get something different. Glad you caught us too. So pH super important. Print that chart out. Print the VPD chart out, and then and the reason that I say to print the chart out for VPD is if you're growing in an unair conditioned area, having the chart's important. Doug doesn't get invite for those for some reason. I don't know. That's weird.
Very important.
That's weird. So if I tag him right now.
And I'll say this too, like, I'm not one to really.
Is this the right Doug?
But
hashtag fuck yes, we got another subscriber. What, Matt?
No, I was just gonna say, like, if you're not one to, like, I don't know, I don't want to say lazy because I don't think anybody's lazy, but let's just say, like, you dislike keeping your VPD in check because your environment's always going to change. Outside, unless you could really, really lock it in, But if you're somebody that struggles with that, because you don't have the proper equipment, one thing I will say is look into buying, a humidity fan controller, because you can actually set. I know ours is a little more sophisticated. You can actually set your desired VPD level, and our system will automatically adjust, fan speed, how high the humidifier is up.
Well, no, you still have to know what you're doing. Like,
right,
VPD
absolutely.
is only a product. You don't set the VPD. Some systems they're doing that, which actually I think is a great idea, but then the equipment can't achieve that. What you could do with ours is set the temp and the humidity with a humidifier being part of the controller, and it can actually really, really, really dial that in.
Right. And you could adjust it. I believe ours is phone compatible. Is it not, Eric?
What'd you say?
Is our system is phone compatible? Is it not?
It depends what you get. You mean the big screen like total controller? No, that is not. That's an offline system. It's all wired, and that's why it works so well. These things where it's all like working on 50 networks is usually great for one thing, but not for others. Evening, all sorry, missed the wake and bake. Trying to complete.
Yeah, VPD is
What's
super
up, brother?
important.
How you doing, Peter?
Good evening, Peter.
Hashtag put in the ground, Doug. So
I
I'm
struggled
gonna make
with
the tag a
VPD
little
in the
bigger.
very beginning, and I noticed the huge difference. Like, even if, like, I don't know, if some people might think it's bro science, I mean, it's not really, but some people think that it's not important, like they just grow their plant. I urge you, if you have a second space, to grow one how like you normally would grow it without keeping your VPD in check, and try growing one with it in check. I mean, you'll see the results in the first few weeks of how your plants are vegging.
Right.
Your leaves are going to be fuller, greener, um, bigger. I mean, I've had crappy VPD and grown some indicas that I thought were sativas, and then I grew the same plant years later in a VPD locked environment, and I'm just like, holy smokes, this thing doesn't look like anything like it did before.
Right, and consistent preferred environment, feedings, pH, waterings, adequate amount of soil, adequate amount of light. This is what gives you the overall greatest outcome in the end, right? So, but those are such a basic thing, right? It's like if you're focusing on everything else, which a lot of people are, you forget these basics. So, I really think that it's important that you nail down these things every day. It's like making your bed, you should have this, down pat. This should be your routine to make sure your VPD is in check. Make sure you're not watering too soon. It should, like I said in Wake and Bake this morning, your pot should be alarmingly light. It should be like, holy shit, is there a plant in here? Like, what I mean? It should feel like nothing is there.
Like right before your leaves start to droop.
Even if they start to droop, that's a good thing.
Yeah, you're still good. Yeah.
When your plant goes into that mode, right, when it's like running out of water, what it does is the exploratory roots go nuts, and they start to actually like branch out in every direction, and they go and search for water. And this is when you have more medium than you need being important, right? Because now if your pot is wet on the outsides where there's no roots, and the inside where the roots are dries out, the roots will branch out before it's totally dry and find that higher amount of water. And this is how you root containers. One of the biggest problems I see with beginners is it's not over watering, but it's you're not letting it dry back enough to the point where this thing's going to explore. So you're not getting a big root ball. You're not going through container after container like a lot of people do. So it's a good thing to wait it out. Seamus Airy, thanks for the follow.
Yeah, I feel like during the uppotting process, like, you should be, like, idealistically, you should be changing containers from, seed starter cup or solo cup to, half gallon, 1 gallon, 3 gallon, 5 gallon.
You should be actually half gallon for a month.
Yeah, I mean, but you should
should
technically, like when you're uppotting
every 2 weeks, right?
2 weeks, is like the minimum. You can push it to 3, but if you feel like your plant's a little stunted, push it to 3. But if that thing's going, so within like a let's call it a 10 or let's call it a 12 to like 16 day, pot phase. You should really only be watering your plant like maximum, like maybe 5 times.
See, hold on. Can I do this? This actually, I learned from somebody who didn't know what they were teaching someone because they were too into it. But the percentage, right? If it's totally dry, you should be giving it close to half of the volume of the container. So if it's a 1 gallon that's totally dry, it'll take a half gallon of water. Healthy plant in there. I'm telling you, if my plant was in a 1 gallon, it'd be massive. But mine's in a half gallon. And if it's totally dry, it gets a 1/4 gallon of water, which is nothing. That's not really a lot. So it's just under a liter. And that runs out, but I'm feeding in cocoa, so it's a little different. If I was doing soil, I would do even half of that. So I'd do like 1/8 of the pot size, and try not to get any of that run out and take my nutrients away. Good evening, William Groover. And if you overwater, Max Bland, a great secret that people don't really, talk about is you can turn your fans on high and put a fan right in front of your plant, but don't put it on the leaves. Put it on the pot. And this will actually like undo that in a matter of a day a lot of the times, unless it's like it's been where it's 90 and 70% humidity.
Yes, that's a good way.
I think
Hashtag
new
sensitive
beginners.
over.
I think new beginners are scared of almost drying back their plant. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like they see dry soil and they get all freaked out. Oh, I got to water, and then you end up in an overwatering situation.
Right. Right.
And if
No,
you struggle, like
I agree
get
there.
yourself a moisture meter. Like if you're really
Right.
struggling, like a $10-15 piece of equipment could really assist you in not nailing down a good watering schedule. Don't rely on it solely throughout your grow.
Right.
Learn from the tools that you have and develop, a schedule based on, what you've observed for the last few weeks. And, then you could utilize that piece of equipment in another plant, another area.
Mhm.
You get the most accurate readings when you just leave them in. Taking it in and out, some of these things, they end up going faulty. So just slam it in there and, let it be in there the entire time.
A moisture meter is a good thing to start with. It's like training wheels.
Yeah.
And what you should be doing with the moisture meter, if you're using it, is when that thing starts to say it's empty, pick the pot up. Pick
Right,
it
feel the
up.
weight.
Get an idea of what empty feels like. And I mean, like, it should feel like a fake plant. Like the pot
Right.
is the only thing you're picking up. This humidity's too high, like you said. Uh-oh. Disappeared. Wait till it's light as a feather. Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
You don't need a moisture meter to tell what's heavy and what's not. And the day that you water it, feel it when you're done watering. You're gonna be like, "Holy crap! It's like a brick is in there." You
Right.
could really tell. It's a good way to do it, Alan. How you doing, man?
Yep.
But you want to also increase your watering size, like the amount. This is something that is also commonly mistaken. So people put them in at a time my autos that are finishing to light. Hold them up when they dry out. Oh, I get what you mean. So your tent's out of commission right now.
Oh no.
Oh no, that's not
I got
good.
you. It's tied
No
to
way.
the light. What was I saying?
You're saying keep upstepping your watering.
Right. I see a lot of people in veg. Thank you. I see a lot of people in veg go like right into a 5-gallon,
Mm-hmm.
and then they leave it in that.
Yeah.
And that's fine if you're going to leave it in that from veg into flower and all through flower. Great. But now you're dealing with something else, right? So if you were to up pot in veg to a 5-gallon, and you go into flower and you follow the rule of thumb, which is 3 times the pot size to flower, you're going to go from a 5 to a 15-gallon. What that means is when you water the 15-gallon, right, there's enough room for it to grow roots, and eventually that plant's going to get so big, you're just going to give it more water to fill that soil, and it's going to take more water out of that soil right away, so you're going to end up needing to give it more to get some runoff. So you're going to know that you're going to automatically have to increase it. But if you're staying in a 5-gallon, big problem I see is the people never increase their waterings. Like, if they're like, oh yeah, I give it a gallon. Like, okay, it's in 5 gallons. Now it's in flower. You're still giving it a gallon? Yeah, I do it more frequently. Like, some people do it more frequently, but a lot of people underwater, and then their plants are all dried out and not doing well and taking nutrients. It looks the same.
You know what else I think a lot of beginners like do like little mistakes on too, like during like a transplant process or uppotting process. They've put their plant in the new pot and then they water, directly onto that plant. Like the logic behind it, I think, is, well, it doesn't have roots out in that new dirt yet, so why would I water over there? I'm going to give it water where
Yeah.
it needs it. and that's a very common mistake. So like when you up pot and you go into a new pot, you're when you up pot, you shouldn't be completely dry, first of all. You can spray the hole that you're about to go in, get it a little damp, give it, I'm not saying don't give it any water at all. You want to water it in and get some of that, that new dirt just to tightly fit around that root ball. But you definitely want to water closer to the outer rim, about what Eric was talking about, your exploratory roots. And,
Exactly.
because if you just keep watering it right where the roots are, they're going to be like, oh, well, we have everything we need right here. Why are we going to go, and then they think, oh, well, it's been in this pot for, 2 weeks now. I need to like just saturate the whole thing. But, your roots haven't really drawn to the outside of the pot like they normally would had you been putting, like Eric said, your roots are going to go to where the water is. So if you really want to root a pot quick, get your plant to have like super amount of vigor, just keep pushing, pumping, getting through. Definitely, water on the outside of your pot and let those roots get to where your water is. And once you're fully rooted, if that's your final pot, then really you could essentially, it's once you have a fully rooted medium, it's really hard to overwater at that point, because your root system's so big, it's just gonna suck it all up. That's why, Eric said, and that kind of coincides, stepping up your water with how big your plant is, but it's also
not changing the pot size.
Right.
You get root compact disorder, like a big solo cup.
Yeah. And you can still stay in that pot. Like you can yank it out of the pot and, cut away some of those roots, if you feel like you're getting root compact disorder, because that's,
or just feed it twice a day.
Yeah, that's one of those
if you
things
have
that's
time.
a challenge. It's more,
Yes.
it's more time management. You definitely if you can avoid that, at all costs. Avoid
Plus, you have a drip system, dude. Listen. When you grow in rock wool, that is the name of the game. It's not. It's like, hey, fuck the fact that it's got root compact disorder its whole life. You're going to mitigate that by watering it 4 times a day. Maybe you'll go feeding clean, and then it'll just dry out overnight a little bit, and then you hit it in the morning, but there's all sorts of methods that help this out. Like, why autopots are pretty effective is because the roots can compact as much as they want, and they're going to be able to drink all day long. So, this is like you're hybridizing the pot system to fit not changing the pot size.
Right.
So just to keep in mind, the more you want to keep it in one pot, the more shit you're going to have to do. If you just go and put it into, and I like the Cyclops method, but if you were to water the plant that you're going to transplant, let it just drain for a second or two, and pop the pot off and put it in the hole it's supposed to go in, and then water the whole thing as if you didn't water your plant. What that's going to do is it's going to literally flush your soil and draw air channels into all the other soil. And as it dries out from the center, because that's where the roots are, the outside of the pot is going to stay naturally wet. And this is like, again, why like a gardener is going to put so much water through a transplant. You're like, dude, you're drowning the thing. But like, it's got to make that home and establish it in that pot, in the new pot. Rockwool, cocoa, and peats. I prefer DWC and currently can't afford that right now. Yeah, dude, that's the shitty part about all that. It's expensive. Sometimes you got to run a chiller.
Yeah, DWC is tough, man.
Yeah, everybody that runs it says it's the easiest thing in the world, and that, I guess it's just like what you perceive as easy. I think that is the most stressful thing on fucking planet Earth, dude. You just like every single little tiny thing that could be wrong, and like I don't know, dude.
Yeah, and like towards the end, you're checking pH like 5-6 times a day, adjusting it, and like you said, keeping the reservoir cold and shit. It's tough.
You need a constant read. Like if I had something like that, which I have had before, I had to have a constant readout. I'd have a heater chiller. I had to have a recirculator that had like its own filter cleaner in it, because like I was just paranoid of everything,
Mm-hmm.
Using screens like that got from like a screen door on the DWC, so I didn't have roots growing through the freaking. Like I went nuts with all this shit, but like the same point, it was hard as hell to get that thing to be like foolproof, and that was like my biggest problem.
Gotta watch for light leaks and all types of other stuff.
Yeah, what color hoses you're using, and then like if it was too hot or if your power goes out, and like dude, just everything, cleaning everything, having the time,
swapping out water, swapping out nutrients. I mean, yeah, it's DWC is not a.
Then if your pen it goes out of whack and you didn't decide to calibrate it one day and it goes way out, and the only cool thing is that you could bring DWC back like overnight, you know what I mean? And it grows like twice as fast. So this is why I think people are gravitating a lot towards these autopot systems where they pick a size pot, they put it in there, it gets as big as it fucking wants to, and it's essentially going to eat like it's hydro and grow like it's hydro. So, it's a really good move for beginners. We don't endorse them. We don't have any affiliateship with them, but through what we've used and what we see people having good results, the Octopot, same kind of deal. The only thing I don't like about that is that you have a soil-filled bag on a reservoir, and I feel like if you have high temps, you're just waiting for bacteria to grow in there and maybe having to clean it or use some sort of a, like, HydroGuard in there. Well, my second season growing, I think I'll stay with fabric pots for a while. I'm not ready to adjust to hydro. Listen, man, if you're good in a fabric pot, good luck to you with that. You get this overwater, underwater thing with fabric pots where you can't put enough water in there at once, because if you did do it, and got all that in one feeding, it's just going to run out in every direction. So your plant gets underwatered, or you water it for an hour straight, or put it in the shower and spray the whole thing down and then let it drip dry and then feed it. It's like, I don't know. I think they're harder than they look. But I guess you can't overwater it, so that's cool.
I mean, I kind of left the fabric pots behind. When I first started growing in, I thought, wow, this is cool. This is what everybody's doing. And I don't use them anymore at all. Unless, I'm, in dire straits for, space, or, I don't have any other containers. But, that never happens because, I've been doing this too long. I have so many containers that I don't even use. But, yeah, the fabric pots are weird. And if you keep them on the floor, everything's drying out at the bottom, and then, you can develop root rot from that. You'd think not, but, you got to get risers for these things so they dry evenly. That's the thing. You want your medium to dry evenly. You don't want wet spots here, wet spots there, because a part that's wet and you keep watering it. I mean,
never dries out.
You're inviting bad things to happen to the party.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, but if there are people that have great success with.
What are the other ones? What are the other ones that don't root down? The pointy pots. What are those called again?
The air pots.
AirPods.
AirPods, yeah.
They're actually the AirPods. I've seen they've done pretty well, but I think I saw someone stick one of those on an Octopot base. And I wonder, you know what I mean? Because I've never really seen anything bad about them other than you have to put them together. Hey, Rick, I'm about to pop a few Northern Light exit cells. Started. Nice, man. Northern Lights, that's the Northern Lights Big Bud Cross.
Ooh, nice.
That's auto. That's
auto action, yeah.
There's 3 prominent phenotypes. There's the 6-foot one that's popcorn buds, kind of size of golf ball, is a beast. Then there's the short one with buds kind of like softballs, or when they do those popcorn covered apples. That's what it looks like on a stick. It's kind of crazy. And then there's the third pheno where it's just super brolic, picture perfect, pointy, solid, nugs.
Yeah.
It's a great strain. So that basically wraps up, what I was saying. Just make sure you have the right parameters and you're keeping your watering, to at least a regiment so that your plant has consistency over time. Because remember, if you want a good outcome from this, you need consistent and concise inputs the whole time. That's
right.
And everyone says, "Oh, veg is super easy," but like that's when it's the most important. I can tell you, I've seen plants that out veg others in the same time periods, and it's like by a lot. And it's just because people had the right VPD and they watered it enough, so it's able to pick up enough nutrients and exhaust enough water to, grow.
And we're gonna be covering a little bit of that when it gets to my section here at the end. So keep that in mind, folks.
Yeah. 5-gallon pots.
4 mans, 5 gallons. Sill pots. I don't know what the sill pot is. Growth stage, 3rd gallon tomorrow. If no pearl on the leaf, try a little more by weight.
I mean, I pretty much switched to auto pots for my final home, and
I don't know if you talk text that, but it came out a little funky, Peter.
I still love my earth boxes, man.
Earth box is good. I mean, that's kind of close to. I mean, they're all hybrid systems. I mean, they're just different. One or two things is just off on them, but essentially they all do the same thing.
Right.
I like the auto pot system just because there's no pumps.
Right.
And it's pretty easy to throw a air stone in it, but you got to be careful with if you're gonna the way you're watering that. If you're gonna go from anything into the auto pot and then turn the auto pot on, that's great. But if you're gonna try to live in the auto pot for a little while, top feed it. I've seen quite a few problems because salt layer on a top fed is in the bottom and salt layer on a bottom fed's in the top. So as soon as you bottom feed, all that salt gets pushed through your root zone and it drives your pH way down, and it takes a while to get that salt layer completely moved. Swen, how you doing? That,
I feel like when if you top feed for half of its life and then you bottom feed for the other half, I feel like what happens is you get a lot of that salt buildup in the middle, which is like the most critical zone of your plant, especially in flower, because if you get that buildup like right in the middle, like where your root ball is and like where most of the exchange is happening from your plant, it's you're gonna run.
But Matt, keep in mind that transition from the bottom to the middle happens the second you turn that on. So it's just going to push that shit up. And then for it to get from there to the top takes like a week plus of you giving it the exact pH water that it needs to combat all that, salt buildup. So, definitely stick to one straight pH fresh water and res, and then just top feed. In an auto pot.
Yeah, I mean, you might be able to get away with some of that if you're growing like 4.
I don't know how. I don't understand how you top feed. So you just pour your top feed into it. So do you let your reservoir dry out and then you top feed it? And question. what's your medium? Self-water bases. Okay. So you let your self-watering base dry out before you feed it, and if you do, what's your medium that you're in? Soil. So is your soil basically beat by the time you're feeding it? Because if it's in there and the soil's amended the whole time, you know what I mean? You're gonna have that salt layer in the top of it. And then if the soil's spent and you're feeding it, it's really not going to be that crazy, but it's still going to push down in there. I'm assuming that you would have, unless you run a bunch of water through it until it runs into the reservoir, I'm assuming you would at some point run into lockout, but unless you really got that soil like down to nothing by the time you started feeding it. I don't know. I guess with nothing in the medium, it helps. But
So Ryan, what's going on with you, bro?
I had nothing but bad results doing top feeds with the Autobot and freshwater swine. So than you, sir.
But no, I was gonna touch on. I forget who asked it. On the page, I think it maybe was Peter. Maybe he was asking about like natural pesticides, that you can use, for cannabis plants. So I bopped around, did some light research, and I just picked out some interesting ones. One thing I found interesting, I did not know that if you took a couple of cups of tomato leaves and you were to cut them up and you were to soak them in like 4 cups of water overnight, and then you dilute that with like a gallon of water, it's extremely effective against aphids. And I did not know that.
I have never heard that one before.
That and it also provides a nice little dose of phosphorus and potassium too to the plant. I don't know, I just found that really interesting. The alkaloids in it. I guess it's tomatine. I guess is the name of it. Is the actual alkaloid that deters the aphids. But another one I found interesting was turmeric. Turmeric, you can actually add turmeric, I read, to your soil when you're actually mixing soil. And they claim that it will repel like unwanted pests from actually, nesting in the soil. And it also has antifungal properties. So like any root rot or stuff like that will combat against that as well. And I guess turmeric is also really, really good for like plant wounds. Like you could even use it for, like cuttings and stuff like that. It helps heal the wounds quicker and stuff like that. Kind of along the same lines of like an aloe or like a silica.
That's funny because you could use cinnamon the same way. Like
no, I was just gonna mention that they also
on
brought
cuttings.
up that cinnamon, has like healing and rooting properties.
Right. Yeah, that's also used in soil. I forget who was telling me. I think it was this morning. They said that you could use cinnamon in the soil. I think it was actually Max. But you can use cinnamon as a deterrent a couple different ways.
Yeah, and then they go into a lot of essential oils actually, and they touched on a lot of stuff that you touched on like Turk Tuesdays, like like peppermint oil, eucalyptus oil, but that stuff is more for like I guess like an aromatic and a taste thing that insects don't like. It's actually not gonna kill the plants, but kind of deter them, or it's not gonna kill the bugs, but it's actually gonna deter them from wanting to eat or nest, in the soil and stuff like that.
You'd be surprised, man. Like eucalyptol, like if you had concentrated eucalyptus terpenes, and you had that in a spray, that shit is so powerful.
I heard it's extremely powerful.
Same thing with clove and oregano oil extract. That shit is like you could smell that from a mile away, and even if it didn't kill stuff on contact. At the level that it is, imagine being in a room painted with all oil-based paint. I don't mean like just the walls, the floors, the ceilings, every single square inch of that room is painted with oil-based paint, and then they close the door and you just stand in there. Your eyes, your mouth, your nose, everything is going to be burning on you. And this is like, exactly what you do to these bugs. They're like, fuck this, dude. I don't want to be there.
Yeah, another one they bring up is rosemary oil. I guess they hate that shit, which I could see, like you just described. Imagine being in a closed room with just rosemary oil everywhere. I'd want out of that room,
Right. That's awesome, Peter. Congratulations and welcome to the Utopic family,
I don't know
bro.
if that's on your list.
I did not write it down, but yeah, I could see how that. Yeah,
lavender's a
would not like that. And another thing I wanted to touch on that you and me were talking about, Eric, right before the podcast was natural predators. I recently took a cut from a friend, which I normally don't do, but I went against my own judgment and took it. And of course, I had an aphid infestation. Oh, no. I tried some Lost Coast. It knocked them back. They always came back. So I actually ended up ordering 300 ladybugs and they wiped them out within 3 days. And they hung out the rest of the cycle, and I did not see one aphid from there on out. It was so simple. Order them, they just come in the mail, boom, drop them in the tent.
Ladybugs are savages too.
They are savages.
Yeah,
they eat everything in sight.
Sometimes the one will land on my shirt, like when I'm by the house, and I'll like immediately run up and like flick it off in my tent. And then I'll hurry up and I'm like,
you've been contracted.
Yeah.
You've been contracted. You know, it's crazy.
Kidnapping the ladybugs.
You know, there's other things too. Like it's not just like things that you can see. You know, there's praying mantises and green lacewings and all sorts of other flying stuff you could see. But then there's stuff you can't see, like nematodes and beneficial, soil bacteria, stuff like that. And something that's in Fox Farm, some of their bags is Hypoaspis miles, which is this little soil mite. And they also come with springtails in there too. Should be good on herb, brother. Yeah, I can't wait to see the utopic difference, man.
Oh yeah, dude.
But air is good too.
Huh?
Air. Proper ventilation, proper air movement is.
Oh yeah. I didn't know what you meant, too. Dude.
Yeah, I didn't either. That's kind of odd.
But yeah, a lot of these things like fungus gnats can't lay eggs in the wind.
Right.
I'm thinking spider mites can't mate in the wind or do anything like that. And I've seen people with spider mites, and this is kind of like a secret weapon that I've given to a few people over the years in the groups, and it's really worked for, I want to say, 80 to 90% of the people that actually did it. But if you have spider mites all over your plants, right, and you're trying to do the natural way of getting rid of them, one of the best things to do is like a drop of dish soap and, and water in a spray bottle. And you don't even use that yet. First, what you do is you take it, the plant, you put it in a shower with your wand sprayer, and you spray the shit out of it, like on hard. And you'll see all these things fly down the drain. All the webs will come off, all that shit. And what you do is after that, you spray the whole plant with Dawn dish soap water, and you put it in front of a fan, and you let it dry in front of like a fan where it's really getting jostled around. And you do that every day in the morning. After about 10 days, they just won't be there anymore. And this is like the same trick with fungus gnats. If you have fungus gnats, you could literally just go up to your plant with a vacuum. I know this might sound insane, but go up there with a vacuum and vacuum them out of the air every morning, every evening. And eventually, they'll just be gone. They can't lay eggs if they're in your freaking vacuum. Compressed with all that, vacuum pressure. They're not alive in there. It's not like they're alive. But like, there's a simple way to get rid of some of these things. Imagine you were like buzzing around a plant and then some gigantic circle just showed up and you just got sucked away and abducted. No one ever saw you again. That shit is real, bro. It's
Look
not
after Billy.
Yeah, you don't need to spray that fucking bug, dude. He's just gone. He was here. He got sucked into the sky and he's gone now.
I mean, me personally, I'm very fortunate. I think one of the biggest natural pesticides is keeping your space clean. That's
but you
huge.
can't help it when you get soil that's fucked up, and you sometimes you need to put your soil in the oven before you use it, and that's a form of cleaning it. So
we don't recommend baking your soil.
I do.
Well, let me say
I do 180 degrees for 40 minutes.
A living soil, to each their own. Eric likes to cook dirt.
Yeah, dude. Yes. If you want to waste your time, just pot it. If you want to waste your time, grab it off Amazon and pot it. If you want to take an extra hour of your life, put it in little baking tins, the whole thing, only like a half inch to 3/4 inch thick, and put it in there at 180 degrees for like an hour, and you're good to go. And you can,
I would say if you did that, you'd have to
re-inoculate. You can re-inoculate it if you want, but I have done it with and without, and it really made no difference. But you know what? There wasn't fungus gnats when I did it. There was no fungus gnats, dude.
No, that's 100% true. Like you can cook them right out of there. like I said, I had them one time, and I got so frustrated I couldn't get rid of them. And then, like a buddy of mine that's been growing for a while was like, "Oh, dude, just point your fan at the top of the dirt." And I
That's
was
what's up,
like,
Swim.
"Okay," because like, and then like doing research with fungus gnats versus wind, like they can't fly for long periods of time. They can't fly far, and they if they dry out, they can't lay eggs.
Mhm.
So as soon as I learned, and I do this every grow, I have one small little 4-inch fan that's clipped in the corner of my tent, and its only job for the duration of its life until that motor burns out and explodes is to just point at the top of my soil.
This is why you
You
want to
know?
replace your fan every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, I've been growing with those fans for like I don't know, 4 years now, and
That's good.
they're not even industrial. Like they're not
That's
meant for
good. So when
grow.
they
They're
burn
like
out
desk fans.
and catch something on fire,
There's 5 inches of dust on that thing.
You know, hey, I pay
Right.
renter's insurance
does
every
it look?
month. You know,
Does the
at
fan
some point,
look carpeted?
at some point, I'm gonna need to get my money back. You know, something's
Swen,
gotta do.
just to touch on your comment, OCD, airflow, air purifier. If you do have like a blue light air purifier, that helps a lot with like powdery mildew and other,
Mm.
stuff that travels on surfaces and shit like that. Also, airborne stuff. One way to eliminate that is we sell the discs. If you need a disc, let me know. But we have these carbon discs that go right over the, you can actually stick it right in the vent hole, or you could put it on the end of a hose. But it keeps particulates and cat hair and dog hair out while it's
Like a
sucking it
sock.
off the ground. And that's kind of important.
Yeah.
Baking the soil, preparing for
Baking
global
the
warming. No, I get it, bro. That's funny.
Yeah.
The
I
Winix
guess
blue light, yeah, dude. Even like any germ guardian works pretty well too because it kills airborne mold spores and it just purifies the air. And clean air is good for a plant. Like it's good for you. It's good for a plant.
and hey, shit, that kind of ties into your VPD thing. Like if your VPD's in check and you don't have like a super high saturated, humidity level for a long time, mold doesn't grow.
Air
It doesn't
exchange
really
alone.
attract.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really doesn't. It really doesn't attract pests. I mean, a lot of pests they like a moist, wet, warm
Stagnant.
environment.
Right.
Right.
So VPD again, that's probably plays a huge part in deterring pests and funguses. And
Dude,
bacteria.
VPD, it doesn't matter what you do or what you talk about, VPD is single-handedly always more important for
Always.
one reason. Like, when you get into drying and trimming, and curing the bud, not trimming, but drying and curing, that's fucking all VPD too, bro. VPD
All
is the
VPD?
equal sign. It's temp plus humidity equals VPD. And the more you're familiar with VPD, the better time you're going to have with all these processes because it's kind of what it's all about.
100%.
And not so much just when the plant's alive. What about
Yeah.
the ozone generation?
Ozone.
I don't think we're generating ozone or degenerating the ozone, putting soil in the oven. We're just crushing, fungus gnat larvae before they fly around in your freaking face and your plant looks deficient for no reason. Another thing is, if you do have fungus gnats, just go buy some freaking beneficial bacteria microbial inoculant, and also get some peroxide and just hit the roots. You're not going to kill absolutely every single thing in there with the peroxide unless you were to use it at a really high, concentration.
Yeah.
But if you use it as a low concentration, it kills the fungus gnats and the larvae and the root fungus gnats, ones eating the roots before they can even become, flies.
I mix diatomaceous earth in when I'm mixing my soil, just a little bit.
It doesn't really help, dude. It's water soluble, so it doesn't really help.
Yeah.
It doesn't really help. But if you want something that's going to help, add sand in there.
Gives me peace of mind.
you replace your diatomaceous earth with sand. Sand is like you crawling through cut glass, you know, and you know, like you were saying, if they dehydrate, they can't lay eggs. So if they get all cuts on them, they dehydrate and die. So it's also good to keep moisture and add aeration. I don't know how it does both, but sand is a weird thing, man.
And it adds silica, right?
I mean, silica is technically
Sand.
Technically, silica is the byproduct of like pulverized quartz, which is also sand.
Sand.
but
Yeah.
it's soluble. It's different. Silica is different. Totally different.
Well, I guess
There's got to be some available.
I'm gonna slide right into my little time slot here, and so I'm talking about today maximizing your growth space and or understanding your growth space. And this could definitely play a part into what my two associates have been talking about. You know, the more plants you have, the less space you have. If you're overgrown, if you're undergrown, all those things are going to affect your environment. All those things, you know, if you're really overgrown, you know, it can really cause potential for molds and pests. So, I want to start with understanding your growth space first. You know, and it happens to me too, still to this day, because I'm a nutcase sometimes. But you should have a plan going in. Like, hey, if I'm in a 2x2, you know, you should have a set veg time. You should have a set period, or not a set veg time, but a set, you know, size for that plant, with the understanding that it's probably going to double in size, if not more. A lot of people wait a little bit too long, and then when they transition, they're like, "Oh my God, like I've ran out of space. You know, the plant is in the light. I can't put it any higher. What do I do? You know, my leaf tips are burning because it's so close to the light. You know, I'm getting mold because my plant's so bushy and I can't even get in there to do anything about it." Um, you know, understanding what your capabilities are and what's going to happen is first and foremost when it comes to the space that you have. I mean, if you have a 10 by 10 and you're just like, you have all the space in the world, or a dedicated room, you know, free grow room where you're not limited to a tent, you can just, you know, do whatever. I mean, you kind of, if you're at that level, you already know like what's going on. You know,
Always, but
unless you're
if
the
you're
guy
buying all that,
unless,
all that, someone should be helping you out, or you should
right,
be pretty prepared.
You know, unless like you're the guy that
People
shows up at the car
that.
dealership and give me, I want the fastest car you have.
I
I don't
mean,
care
dude,
what it is.
some people just have an extra bedroom and they don't want to buy all this extra shit to hang a light. Like, you know what I mean? If they have an air conditioned home, they can hang the light in there and it stays where they need it. Then you
100%.
don't really need a tent and a fan and a controller and a humidifier and a this and that. Run it outside and AC.
100%. But
You know
usually
what I mean?
when you're in that type of location, you rarely ever run into space issues. You know what I mean?
Right, you run into not having enough light because you have a half a room of plants and one
right.
light.
Yeah. So we're talking about more so like the tent growers, closet guys.
Swen's got the freaking 10 by 10. So
yeah,
he's
does
like
Swen still
a
have
bedroom.
Does he have the
bedroom
chill chair
with a
in there
tent.
still?
Yeah, dude, he trims in there. That's awesome.
Awesome.
Just zips himself up, and he's just like, "Don't bother me."
So, you know, moving forward with, you know, first we understand our growth space and how many plants we're growing and what the expectations are. You know, limit yourself, or not limit yourself, but, you know, give yourself a cutoff height, time, bush, whatever you want to do, however, you know, and you'll learn that as you start growing. You know, you're probably going to overgrow a 2x2 maybe your first time. Hopefully you do. But
should,
you know, as you grow, you know, like, hey, I'm in a 2x4, because what you don't want to happen is you don't want your stuff to like completely just be jammed up in there. You know, you're not getting proper light penetration, you're not getting proper air movement. So just like understanding the small basics, like Eric was talking about earlier, you know, the small basics of your growing system, you know, how your plants are performing. You want to defoliate, you know, good and often, to keep those plants with proper airflow. It's going to help VPD. If you're overgrown, your medium is going to probably stay wetter longer, because of ventilation, and it's almost like the greenhouse effect. Um, you're it's going to be overwhelming, so like once you get an understanding of your space and how to maximize it, trimming your plants, defoliating, training, all that plays a part. If you're planning on scrogging in a 2x2, good luck. It's you can, but you have to understand what you're doing. If you just scrog like you see people in 4x4 scrog, you're going to be like in some trouble come flower time. You're gonna be like, oh, there's too much plant here, and I let it go too long. And I've done it. And sometimes you can't control it. You know that you're in a 4x4 and you got 4 plants in 4 gallon pots, which is plenty space, you think. And then you just have monsters that just are like, holy smoke, and you can't stop them. That happened with our purple lineup with me. I've grew 4 different strains, 4 autopots, 3.9 gallons. And I'm thinking like, oh shit, I'm good. I'm going to train him to the outside corner of the pot. They're going to fill his canopy up really nice. And again, I couldn't have been more wrong, because if you look at my IG, you'll see like the struggles that I went through. I actually had to take a plant out and put it in another tent. And that plant filled up a 3x3 all by itself, so like just get an idea, 4 plants, pretty much the same size, I would have needed, a 12x12 space to fill these. Like they were just, well, no, that seems excessive, 12x12, but they were just massive plants.
You mean the with the purple lineup?
The secret purple, I took it out of
right.
the
You could have
4x4.
put each of those in their own 4x4.
Right, and they would have filled. So like, what
that's
that
an
mean?
8x8.
8x8, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a pretty big fucking room.
My math wasn't math. Still, yeah,
There's only a couple plants in there. 8x8 room. People have a bunch of plants in there.
And you see people like all the time. They got 5 plants in a 4x4, and they're good. And like sometimes you can get caught off guard. And you're like, holy shit. Much love, Alan. So I mean, it happens. I do it all the time because I push boundaries, and like I want to see what a plant can do. So I'm not vegging it for 4 weeks and flipping it. Like I want to see that thing. I want to see what it does. Like in the later weeks of veg, and I grow a little bit differently. So I only started growing 1 plant at a time because I can get that plant to fill that tent. And I'm cool with that. I get just as much end product as I typically would with 4 plants. In the same area. Maximize your space, but what works for you. It's always good to have and not need than need and not have. 100%, because of what these guys were talking about earlier. It's you want to mitigate your problems and get the most out of your equipment at the same time. So you kind of have to make decisions and plan accordingly for what you're trying to do here. A lot of beginners, I've seen some that start off with 1 plant in a 4x4. I've seen some that are just like overloading it, and you're just like, oh no, like what are you going to do with all those plants? Happens a lot in the Bean Poppers Anonymous group. I think we've all got, plant fever at some point in our grow lives, and on our journey, and we're just popping all different kinds of stuff. We're getting stuff in the mail like every other day. We're like, oh man, I'm planting this right now. And 2 days later, you're like, shit, I'm planting more seeds.
William, that was actually going to be my comment here. Matt, that I wanted to add to, you might have, and this piggybacks off Peter's comment before, you might have a 9x11 space, but this kind of goes like by the same method of when you're buying a house, like if you can afford to just live in a mansion, don't forget you still got to heat that whole place. You know what I mean? And this is the same kind of thing. You might have a 10x20 room that's an empty room you could use, but you have to be able to mitigate the VPD in that room, that whole room. Then you have to light the whole room. And if you don't light the whole room, you're just wasting your environment. So William, he put a comment up that says his light limits him. He can't utilize his area. Exactly. You are bound to the amount of lighting that you can adequately, light your space with, whether that be 10 by 10 or 5 by 5 or big ass room. Matt, there they are.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
I knew it. I knew it. He was
And,
pushing the fireworks button.
it's crazy because I look forward to a lot of our beginners. I really do. I look forward to talking to them 2 years from now, and just hearing a lot of good things, because I know where I was at in the beginning and I know where I'm at now. We talked about pH in your water and checking certain things. Once you gain a lot of experience and you use the same products, consistency is so big in growing cannabis. If you get something that really works and you stick with it consistently, I'm not saying don't try new stuff, and if something piques your interest, go for it, but always have your one thing that you're tried and true, 100% gives you great results every time. Once you learn that system for yourself, I don't need to really pH water. I do still, but I know if I fill up my 5-gallon container, I know what my water is. I've pH'd it, ppm'd it, EC'd it a million times in the first few years of growing. It's never changed. So I know when I fill up a 5-gallon bucket of water that I need, a milliliter and a half of pH down, because it comes out at 7.4, and that milliliter and a half brings me down to, between 6.2 and 6.5. I know that. So I don't really have to spend time with pH and water and checking it, looking at it. A lot of people will put pH down in their water and test the pH right then and there. That's not a great idea. You want to let your water sit for at least 10 minutes. Let that stuff get in there, let that chemical reaction happen, and then test your pH levels. We talked about air stones and some of these, reservoir systems. You got to watch out with that, because when you start adding constant air to your water, you're going to have pH swings, and if you're not on top of it, if you don't know how to combat that or, follow, again, that's something you could learn. If you put this water in that reservoir with an air stone and you test it the next day and it jumped 0.2, and then you test it the next day and it jumped 0.2 again, and after 5 days you're like, oh well, it's capped out at 7.9. Learn how to adjust it as you go along, and you can just say, okay, well, I just put this water in here, in 2 days I got to add half a milliliter pH down, and you continuously do that. You don't really have to spend a lot of time with the little things anymore, because you have your system and you know exactly what it does and how it works. Some of these old guys that have been doing a trade for 30, 40 years, they don't concern themselves with frivolous things anymore, because they know how it's going to work out, They're like, oh, give me a plum, a trowel, and a friggin' wheelbarrow, and I'll build you what you need built. That's a tried and true. I've been doing it. These guys are coming in with automatic brick layers, 3D cement printing, and these guys don't care. These guys
they
don't
have
care
it, dude. They print houses. They have 3D printers with cement cartridges, a tube fed, and they'll literally just
it's nuts, dude.
Go around and print these houses and the bedroom walls and everything in place.
I'm fearful of the future.
It's crazy.
I really am.
It's actually pretty crazy, dude.
It is. It's crazy. It's neat, but I'm just imagining how many fucking jobs it's going to eliminate in this world. Right. One more reason to smoke weed,
Peter, I'm happy you like the Critical 47. Shout out to Cannabis Genetics. I hope you see the stream at some point.
Peter, how's that growing for you? Is it? I don't know how far along you are, but
he finished Critical 47 and I'm pretty sure Doc 47, and they were both gorgeous.
Were they massive? Were they big?
The ones he has going now are massive and big, right. But the ones he had going are medium sized, but they had missiles, dude. The whole thing was even buds. It was a really nice grow.
Man, I deleted the pictures of my Critical 47. I grew 2 of them. in one tent, and
You can't do that.
yeah,
Not
they
in
were
auto
just
pots.
balls to the wall, man. Like no lie, like
Gross, how
it
you
was
doing?
bad. It was bad.
Doing good. I'm doing good.
And
You're at
here's the thing too,
61
like
days, Peter. Nice.
let me touch on autopots or some of these hybrid systems, because I used to do this when I first got them because I'm like, well, man, if I have to feed and I can't put it in the reservoir because it's going to turn to shit in like 3 days, and then I'm going to have to change the water out, you know, and so I just started top feeding it. I'd let the pot dry out. I would shut the reservoir off, let it dry out, top feed it, and then like exactly what Eric said will happen. It did happen to me. I got locked out. I had so much buildup in my plant. So what I do now actually is there's a way to do that. I actually just turn the reservoir off, you know, and when the float section is completely empty of water, I will take my nutrient load, or I do this with molasses now too, because I don't really feed my plant much nutrients. Um, I pour it in there and I let the plant naturally wick it up just how it would the regular water. And once it gets low, then I turn the reservoir back on and it's back to like
Boom.
normal, operations. And you're not changing the flow of how things are within your medium within that system. So
Exactly. Exactly. But you have to. Oh, man. You were
Colin.
right, Matt.
you're here for the fireworks?
Rod, what are you doing, buddy?
I'm just here for the fireworks.
I just got back from
Oh, my God.
I found out somebody in our high school passed away. I was at my buddy's house talking about that, so I'm a little late. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good.
It's all right. Rod from Utopic is here, but then we got the fireworks going, so Rod, could you keep your camera one direction? There you go.
There you go.
That's
Keep
good.
it right there, Rod. Yeah.
Anyways, I know. It's a double-edged sword, man. Anyways, yeah, no, I really like what Matt's saying, and I actually have adopted the same methodology, which is like just stop the flow of clean water, let it dry out, and then get the feeding with the in the bottom of the res so that it doesn't actually disrupt that salt layer, and your plant really doesn't have much of a difference. It ends up just making
it thinks it's coming to it as
feeding
naturally as any other thing.
Right, but the feeding gets gradually pushed up into this autopot system as well after that, because when you turn it back on, you're forcing the fresh water back up into it, which is actually going to dilute and further push the feeding up through the root zone, as it would. So that is the best way, I think.
And one more thing that I recommend using is if you're in like a hybrid system like that, or you could even use it in hydro, plant enzymes. It's a very simplistic thing. You put a couple drops in your water, but what that does, because it's with wicking systems or auto watering systems where there's no runoff and no way to get excess out. So plant enzymes are actually a really good supplement for helping clean your roots, helping break down some of those, compacted salt deposits that are forming in your soil. It's only going to benefit your plant. It's going to help you. So that's a way that you can combat a lot of those things with as far as how buildup's concerned within a self-watering system, that you're not pushing those negative things out of your soil when you do a mini flush, or even if you're doing a little excess runoff at each watering. So I mean, plant enzymes are a pretty cool thing and something to look into. What are we doing here? Musical bearded man? I think that I think Eric's gonna wrap us up and close us out. And
I don't know. It looks like Ryan's having some quality
technical difficulties.
issues. Yeah.
We're not perfect here.
Basically, it doesn't boil down to do this or do that and you'll have a good result. It comes down to, just following the basics or the outlined guide that you've created for yourself and sticking to that so that you can, keep consistent, concise inputs and, get the best out of your plant by giving it, the best odds, and the best odds is consistent environment, consistent watering so the plant can do what it wants to. Someone said before, give the plant what it wants. If it has a consistent environment, consistent food, consistent living, it gets to ask what it wants more of or 100%. Less of. And when it's inconsistent, it doesn't have the ability to ask for what it wants. It only has the ability to, pull from itself.
Yeah. Like, I would say, think of it like this, think of like growing, or not even growing, let's just say growing up as a human being in like a third world country. That's like poor VPD, poor watering practices, like your chance of, I'm not saying you can't succeed, there are exceptions.
No, this is not about success. It's quality of life.
Right.
It's exactly, your plant's quality of life. We're not saying
right, exactly. And kind of, I guess maybe I tied that in a little bit wrong, but you don't have all the resources. You don't have. I mean, you have the resource, but they're not being utilized. So,
it could be so much better. It's just
exactly. And then
around.
And then growing up in like somewhere like a tropical paradise where you have everything at your disposal whenever you want it. You have fruit growing off trees. You have meat. You have water. You have an abundance of all these things that you can tap into. That's a good environment, a good setup, good practices. And your plant is almost always going to succeed and thrive in those environments. That's why, those environments exist on this planet. So like if you could kind of mimic those things and give your plant all those things at its disposal and all those resources, it's only going to thrive. If it's deprived, if it's in a shitty environment, it's going to be sad. It's going to be bogged down. It's not going to perform the way that it's meant to perform.
Right. Exactly. That's what it's about. Optimal input, optimal output.
Right. I like that, Eric. I like that.
Transporting legal lumber on mopeds. I don't know where that's coming. I don't know where that came from.
Transporting lumber on mopeds?
Illegal lumber.
Illegal?
It's for 18 cents a load.
Dang.
I don't know. Sounds like big business to me. But everybody, thank you for joining us on another episode. And we hope to catch you next week.
100%.
Thank you to all our subscribers. We finally figured out how this is going to work. We're just going to be live here. But to comment, you have to be a subscriber. So we have our subscribers leaving the comments. So thank you all for your support, and we appreciate you. And we'll catch you all next week.
Appreciate you guys.
Peace out, everyone.